Welcome to the Black Struggle. Before diving into the story, please like and subscribe this channel. Let's start. The restaurant lights glowed like warm honey against the November night, but inside the air felt tight with the quiet pressure of money and manners. Nicole Carter carried a tray balanced with 3 plates, her steps steady even as the dining room buzzed with Boston's well-dressed elite. She moved with a precision that didn't belong to restaurant work, each motion controlled and efficient. Most guests barely noticed her, just another server in a black uniform, but a few couldn't resist small reminders of who held the power. At table 12, a man in a tailored pinstripe suit raised his voice just enough for nearby diners to hear. "This wine is completely wrong," he said, tapping the glass as if it offended him. "I ordered the 2019 Bordeaux, not this." Nicole had served exactly what he asked for, but she only nodded and said, "I'll check with the sommelier." Contradicting him would mean trouble, maybe the end of her job. His companion glanced at her diamond bracelet with an expression that dismissed Nicole like a fly. "Some people simply don't understand quality," the woman said. The words slid across the room like a knife. Nicole's face stayed calm. 8 years in the Navy had taught her when to fight and when to let the moment pass. Harrison Blake watched from a corner table, his laptop closed. He wasn't like the others. Billionaire or not, he sat with quiet interest, his eyes following Nicole's movements as if trying to solve a puzzle. There was something about her stance, the way she scanned the room while she worked, that didn't fit the picture of a server. The night moved on with the rhythm of clinking glasses and quiet orders, but small cuts kept coming. A woman snapped her fingers for the check Nicole had already delivered. The chef grabbed her wrist to scold her over garnish. The manager barked for her to move faster. Each slight brushed against her like grit under skin. She let them pass, because survival sometimes meant stillness. Harrison noticed it all, the subtle disrespect, the calm in her face when others might have argued back. He wondered who she really was. Nicole had just set down a tray when the door slammed open so hard the chandeliers trembled. 5 men in dark clothes and masks flooded the room, rifles raised. Diners screamed and dropped to the marble floor. Crystal shattered. "Everyone down," the lead man shouted. People obeyed, crawling for cover. Nicole didn't move. Her breath stayed even, her eyes steady as she mapped the room in an instant. 5 men, weapons high, exits blocked. The lead gunman aimed at her. "I said on the ground before I put you there permanently." "No," Nicole said, voice low and sure. The single word sliced through the panic. Even the gunman paused, his finger tight on the trigger, as if he'd seen something in her eyes he couldn't name. The gunman tilted his head, the barrel of his rifle trembling just enough for Nicole to notice. "You deaf or just stupid?" he asked, stepping closer. The room stayed silent except for a child's muffled sob and the clink of glass as someone shifted under a table. Nicole didn't lower her gaze. She was already measuring distances, reading the way each man held his weapon. Years of training settled in like an old friend. Her stance shifted ever so slightly, feet apart, weight balanced. She kept her hands visible, not to surrender, but to buy a few precious seconds. Behind an overturned chair, Harrison lay on his side, watching. Something about the woman who had calmly carried duck confit minutes ago had changed. This wasn't fear. It was calculation. The lead gunman, tall, broad shoulders, voice rough with the edge of Boston streets, took another step. "Last chance." Nicole's reply was quiet, almost gentle. "Not happening." Recognition flickered across the man's eyes, a flash of something private. His grip loosened just enough to make Harrison wonder if they knew each other. Then a second robber shouted from the back, "Ghost, let's move." "Ghost." Harrison filed the name away. The leader's head turned, breaking the line of aim for a heartbeat. Nicole caught every detail. The angle of the gun. The nervous rookie near the bar whose hands shook so badly the muzzle wavered. The big one by the door trying to look tough but standing too stiff, weight on his heels. Her body moved before thought. A blur of speed and intent. She closed the gap to the biggest man in less than a second, driving her palm into his throat while twisting the barrel of his weapon toward the ceiling. A deafening burst rattled the chandelier, raining crystal across the floor. Screams erupted. The other gunmen swung their weapons, but she was already in motion, using the collapsing giant as a shield. She dropped low, rolled, and came up beside the man on her left. Her elbow struck with brutal precision. He dropped without a sound. Another fired wildly, bullets sparking off marble. Nicole slipped behind a partition, using the chaos to close in. She grabbed his weapon, twisted, and the crack of breaking fingers echoed through the room. 3 down. Harrison could hardly process what he was seeing. It wasn't just speed, it was control. Every move targeted to disable, not kill. The last 2 men froze, eyes wide. Stop! Ghost barked, his rifle still pointed at her but his voice unsure. Nicole stepped into the open, breathing steady, eyes locked on his. Jerome Williams, she said evenly. Walnut Street. 10 years ago. The name hit him like a shock. His weapon wavered. That's impossible, he whispered. I came back, she replied. Silence fell heavy across the room as the remaining robbers looked at their leader, waiting for his next move. Ghost's jaw tightened as if he were grinding the memory into place. Nick, he asked, using the nickname no one in this restaurant could have known. Nicole gave the slightest nod. Around them, frightened diners clung to each other, unsure whether to stay silent or scream. The marble floor glittered with shards of chandelier glass. One of Ghost's men shifted nervously, his weapon half-raised. What are you doing, man? Take her out and let's finish this. Shut up, Ghost snapped without taking his eyes off Nicole. You don't understand who this is. Nicole didn't flinch. You're not that kid from Roxbury anymore, Marcus. But I remember you. Her voice carried just enough for everyone hiding under tables to hear. The bigger robber by the entrance, Tank, from the way Ghost had barked his name earlier, let out a harsh laugh. It's just some waitress, bro, stop being dramatic. Nicole's gaze slid to him. In a blink she assessed his stance, his grip on the gun, the distance. She could close it fast if she had to. Ghost seemed to sense it. Don't, he warned her quietly, then turned to his crew. We're leaving. Tank frowned. What about the money? Forget the money, Ghost said flatly. We walk out. Now. The men hesitated, confused. Nicole stayed perfectly still, her body ready but not threatening. Civilians crowded the corners of her mind, 30 people who could be hurt if even one shot went wild. Slim, the last conscious gunman, tried to salvage his pride. He grabbed a diner crawling toward the door and pressed his pistol to the man's head. Not until I say so. One more move and rich boy dies. The hostage whimpered. Nicole measured the space between them. She could reach Slim, but only if he wasn't already squeezing the trigger. Smart girl, Slim taunted. Now back away. Nicole raised her hands slightly, letting him believe she was yielding. Her eyes never left Ghost. Enough, Ghost said, his voice like stone. We're not doing this. Slim's eyes darted from his leader to Nicole. After a tense beat he cursed and shoved the hostage aside. Ghost backed toward the door, his rifle still half-aimed but no longer threatening. He paused at the threshold and met Nicole's gaze one last time. "When this gets out, and it will, be careful who you trust." Then they were gone, the restaurant sinking into a stunned silence broken only by the sound of glass crunching under cautious footsteps. People began to rise from behind tables, their faces pale and disbelieving. Nicole stood in the center of it all, her black uniform streaked with dust, the cut on her cheek bleeding lightly. Her eyes swept the room, alert for any hidden danger. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, her voice carrying calm authority that surprised even her. For a moment no one answered. Diners glanced at one another, testing the air as if to be sure the danger was really gone. Then scattered voices replied, soft, shaky affirmations that they were unhurt. Harrison Blake stood carefully, brushing glass from his sleeves. He couldn't take his eyes off Nicole. The woman who had just served him coffee had moved like a soldier, not a server. The restaurant manager, Danny Reeves, hurried from behind the host stand, his face flushed. "Nicole, what in the world were you thinking?" he demanded. "You could have gotten someone killed." "She saved our lives," Harrison said quietly, his voice carrying enough weight to make a few people turn. Trevor Manning, the man who'd mocked Nicole over the wine, pushed himself upright. He looked pale but angry. "Did you see what she did? That's not normal. That's dangerous." Vanessa, still clutching her glittering bracelet, nodded quickly. "She's trained to hurt people. What if she decided we were the threat?" Nicole felt the shift in the room. Fear had replaced gratitude. It was a look she knew well, people impressed by her skill until they realized what it meant. "That's enough," Harrison said, stepping closer to her. "You're alive because of her." But murmurs spread, the crowd leaning toward Trevor's side. Phones appeared, cameras catching her in the harsh chandelier light. Nicole stood still, her breathing steady, though a dull ache pulsed in her cheek. Blue and red lights flashed through the windows. Boston police entered with weapons drawn, a detective in plain clothes leading them. "Hands visible, everyone," she ordered, her voice clipped and calm. The diners raised their hands. Nicole did too. The detective's eyes swept the room, taking in the fallen gunman and the overturned tables before settling on her. "Who can tell me what happened here?" Trevor was first. "That woman attacked the robbers. We're lucky she didn't kill someone." The detective moved closer to Nicole, studying her stance. "Your name?" "Nicole Carter. I work here. Can you tell me what happened?" Nicole gave a clear, measured account, but Vanessa cut in, her voice sharp. "She went after them like a vigilante. It was terrifying." The detective raised a brow. "She stopped an armed robbery. That's legally justified." Danny cleared his throat. "Detective, I want to be clear. Ms. Carter is no longer employed by this establishment. Her actions were not sanctioned by management." Nicole kept her face neutral, though the words landed like a slap. "Fired, for saving lives." Harrison stepped forward, his tone low but firm. "You're dismissing the person who protected every soul in this room?" Danny didn't meet his eyes. "I'm protecting my business from someone who clearly has a capacity for violence we didn't know about." The detective's gaze lingered on Nicole, a flicker of respect behind her professional mask. "Ms. Carter, I'd like you to give a full statement. Away from this crowd." Nicole nodded once. "Of course." As she followed the detective toward a quieter corner, she felt dozens of eyes track her every step, half in awe, half in fear. Detective Kelly guided Nicole toward a small side hallway, away from the restless crowd and the smell of broken glass. The clamor of voices softened behind them until only the faint buzz of police radios filled the space. "I need the details," Kelly said, keeping her voice steady. "Everything you saw." Nicole recounted the sequence of events with crisp precision: the entry, the weapons, the positions of each man, the quick calculations that guided her moves. Kelly listened without interrupting, eyes narrowing slightly at the level of tactical clarity. "You have military background," the detective said when Nicole finished. 8 years Navy, Nicole replied. "Special Warfare Command." Kelly raised her eyebrows but simply nodded, jotting a note. "That explains a lot. And why didn't you pursue the suspects when they fled?" "Too many civilians. Risk was too high." Before Kelly could ask another question, a commotion rose near the entrance. Harrison Blake's voice cut through. "She saved us all, and you're treating her like a criminal?" Nicole turned to see Danny Reeves arguing with officers, his face flushed. "I'm responsible for this establishment," he barked. "She endangered my staff and customers. I want her removed immediately." Kelly stepped forward, her tone sharpening. "Mr. Reeves, I advise you to stop interfering with an active investigation." Trevor Manning added his own complaint, loud enough for everyone to hear. "This woman has dangerous skills. Who's to say she won't use them on us next?" Nicole stood silent, watching fear ripple through people who, minutes earlier, had been grateful to be alive. The same pattern she'd seen overseas, gratitude collapsing into suspicion, unfolded like a script. Kelly glanced back at her. "You okay?" "I've seen this before," Nicole said quietly. "People like their heroes a certain way." Harrison pushed through the cluster of diners and stopped at Nicole's side. "This is wrong," he said. "Completely wrong." His eyes held a steady concern that surprised her. Most men of his wealth would already be on their way home, congratulating themselves on their escape. Danny pointed toward Nicole. "I'm making it official. Ms. Carter is terminated. Her actions tonight are unacceptable." Kelly's jaw tightened. "Firing the person who prevented a massacre? Interesting choice." Nicole only nodded once. "I understand. You can't just accept this," Harrison said, his voice low. "I've seen how this works," she replied, keeping her tone even. "People are alive. That's enough." Outside, the wail of sirens mingled with the chatter of news crews arriving, drawn by social media alerts. Blue light flickered across the windows, casting the dining room in a restless glow. Kelly handed Nicole a card. "We'll need a full statement later. Call if you remember anything else." Nicole slipped the card into her pocket and turned to leave. The diners parted as she walked through, their eyes following as if she were something dangerous set loose in their safe world. On the sidewalk, the night air was cold and sharp. Harrison followed her out, his footsteps quick behind hers. "Nicole, wait," he said, voice quieter now, almost careful. Nicole stopped beneath a street lamp, the chill of the night brushing her skin through the torn shoulder of her uniform. Harrison stood a few steps away, his breath clouding in the cold. "You don't have to just walk away," he said. "What you did in there was extraordinary." She gave a small, tired smile. "Extraordinary gets you fired when you don't fit the picture they want. That doesn't make it right." "No," she agreed, "but it's how it goes." For a moment neither spoke. Police radios crackled. News vans rolled up, spilling camera crews onto the sidewalk. Nicole shifted her weight, scanning the street the way she always did when leaving a mission, checking shadows, exits, angles. Old habits she never lost. Harrison studied her face, curiosity clear in his eyes. "Why were you waiting tables? With your training, you could do anything." Some things are simpler when nobody notices you, she said. He nodded slowly, as if understanding more than he let on. If you ever want something different, call me. He held out a card, Harrison Blake, CEO, Blake Industries. Nicole hesitated, then tucked it into her pocket. Thank you, she said, though she wasn't sure she meant to use it. Before either could add more, Detective Kelly stepped outside, her coat pulled tight against the wind. Ms. Carter, one more thing, she said. The leader of that crew, Marcus Ghost Williams, has a record a mile long. Robbery, assault, drug trafficking. Any reason he'd hesitate with a rifle pointed at you? Nicole's gaze stayed steady. We grew up on the same streets. That's all. Kelly searched her face, then gave a small nod. If you think of anything that could help us find him, call. She handed over another card and went back inside. Harrison looked at Nicole again. That man knew you. Long time ago, she said, ending the subject. He didn't push. Instead he offered, let me give you a ride. Reporters are going to swarm this place. Nicole shook her head. I'll be fine. Still, take my driver. It's safer. She paused. Something in his voice wasn't pity, it was respect, maybe even trust. After a moment she nodded. All right. They walked to a black sedan idling at the curb. The driver opened the door, and Nicole slid in. Harrison leaned down before the door closed. If you need anything, even just a conversation, call the number on that card. She gave a faint smile. Good night, Mr. Blake. As the car pulled away, Nicole looked back once at the restaurant, blue lights washing over the marble facade. Tomorrow the headlines would twist the story. She knew how quickly people turn fear into blame. But for now, the city lights blurred past the window, and she let the quiet settle in, wondering if her life had just shifted in a way she couldn't yet name. Morning sunlight spilled across Nicole's small apartment, the kind of pale Boston light that never quite warmed the room. She sat at her kitchen table with a mug of coffee gone cold, the news on her phone buzzing with headlines she expected: violent waitress attacks robbers, hero or threat. Clips of her fight with the gunman were already everywhere. Some comments praised her courage, others questioned her sanity. A knock at the door cut through the low hum of city traffic. Nicole checked the peephole before opening it. Harrison Blake stood there, dressed in a tailored coat that didn't hide the unease in his eyes. I hope I'm not crossing a line, he said. I just wanted to see how you're holding up. Nicole stepped aside, motioning him in. You didn't have to come all the way here. I know. But after last night, it didn't feel right to just send a text. He glanced around her modest apartment, the worn couch, the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. The news is brutal, he added quietly. They're twisting everything. That's what they do, she said. People like a simple story. A violent waitress is easier to explain than a complicated truth. Harrison leaned against the counter. I can't stop thinking about what I saw. The way you moved, that wasn't luck. I was trained for situations like that, Nicole said. 8 years in Navy Special Warfare. I wanted a quiet life after. Serving tables was supposed to be simple. He nodded, absorbing her words. I need someone with your skill set. Nicole raised an eyebrow. For what? My company handles sensitive government contracts, cybersecurity, infrastructure. I get threats more often than I like to admit. Catherine, my head of security, is retiring soon. I think you'd be perfect to replace her. Nicole blinked. I'm not looking for charity. This isn't charity. It's recognition. You have the training, the judgment, the restraint. Catherine would want to meet you herself. She considered him for a long moment. You don't even know me. I know enough, he said softly. You saved a room full of strangers and chose not to kill when you could have. That tells me everything I need. Nicole looked down at her coffee. The offer tempted her more than she wanted to admit. Steady income, purpose, a chance to use her skills without hiding. But the spotlight that followed Harrison Blake could burn, and she'd spent years avoiding that kind of attention. Before she could respond, Harrison's phone buzzed. He frowned as he read the message. That's strange, he murmured. My home alarm was tripped last night. Nothing stolen, but the security system was disabled from the inside. Nicole straightened. During the robbery? He nodded. Almost the exact same time. A cold certainty settled over her. That wasn't a coincidence, she said. Someone wanted you distracted. And we need to find out who. Nicole followed Harrison through the sliding glass doors of his Beacon Hill home that evening, her senses sharpening the moment she stepped inside. The place looked like a magazine spread, polished wood floors, framed harbor views, but she didn't admire the decor. Her eyes moved over every entry point, every possible blind spot. Catherine Walsh, a tall woman with silver hair pulled into a neat twist, met them in the foyer. Mr. Blake, she said, her voice crisp, the alarm system was disarmed at 8:52 p.m. last night and rearmed at 11:47. No sign of forced entry. Whoever did it knew the codes. Nicole crouched near the control panel, noting the faint smudges around the keypad. This wasn't a quick job. Someone planned this. 3 hours inside without setting off motion sensors means they had the master override. Catherine's eyes flicked to Harrison. Only a handful of people have those codes. You, me, your housekeeper, your driver, your assistant, your accountant, and a few emergency contacts. Nicole straightened. That's a short list. And whoever did it chose the same night as the restaurant attack. Harrison rubbed a hand over his face. It can't be coincidence. Someone wanted me distracted while they searched this house. What would they be after? Nicole asked. Financial records, business contracts, security protocols, he said. If they access those, they know how to reach me anytime they want. Nicole looked around the quiet office, the subtle scent of cedar polish mixing with something metallic, maybe from the lock on the filing cabinet, where she spotted a scratch no one else might have seen. This was professional, she said. Government trained or equivalent. Catherine gave a small nod, as if agreeing. I've been in this work for decades. This is no random burglary. Before Harrison could respond, Catherine's phone buzzed. She answered, listening for a long moment before her expression hardened. Detective Kelly just called. They picked up the leader of last night's crew, Marcus Ghost Williams. He's asking to speak to you, Ms. Carter. Only you. Nicole felt a stir of something old and complicated. Ghost wanted her specifically. That meant the robbery had been about more than quick cash. Harrison stepped closer. I'm coming with you. No, Nicole said, the word firm. If this was planned to get to you, the police station isn't safe. They could be watching it. She's right, Catherine agreed. We need to keep your location quiet until we know who's behind this. Harrison hesitated, frustration tightening his jaw, but he nodded. Fine. But I want to know everything he tells you. You will, Nicole promised. She turned toward the door, her mind already moving ahead. If Ghost was ready to talk, he held the next piece of the puzzle. And she intended to hear every word. Boston Police Headquarters buzzed with the low hum of weekend calls as Nicole stepped through the metal detector. Detective Kelly met her near the elevators, a hint of concern in her sharp eyes. "He's in interview room 3, Kelly said, leading her down a hallway that smelled faintly of coffee and disinfectant. "Hasn't said a word to anyone else. Keeps asking for you." Inside the small room, Marcus Ghost Williams sat cuffed to a metal table. Without the mask, he looked older than she remembered, scarred knuckles, lines cut deep around tired eyes. He straightened when she entered. "Nick," he said, relief breaking through his hard tone. "Thank God you came." Nicole took the chair opposite him. "You wanted to talk. Make it count." He glanced at Kelly by the door. "Not with her here." Nicole's voice stayed even. "Anything you tell me goes straight to the police. If you were hoping for street loyalty, you came to the wrong person." Ghost studied her for a moment, then gave a slow nod. "Fair enough. But what I'm about to say puts you in danger." "I can handle danger." "Start talking." He leaned forward as far as the chain allowed. "The robbery wasn't my idea. Someone hired us. Big money. Serious connections. They knew Harrison Blake would be at that restaurant, exactly when and where he'd be sitting." Nicole's pulse quickened, though her face gave nothing away. "Who hired you?" "Never met them face to face. Everything came through an intermediary, a guy named Danny Reeves." "Your manager." The name landed like a weight. Nicole pictured Danny's flushed face as he fired her, the way he'd called attention to her after the robbery. "They paid us $5 million to make it look like a robbery gone wrong," Ghost continued. "The real target was Harrison Blake." Nicole sat back, letting the pieces click into place. The break-in at Harrison's home. The perfectly timed attack. Danny's instant move to distance the restaurant from her actions. "Why didn't you go through with it?" she asked. Ghost's eyes softened. "Because you were there. Because I remember what you did for my brother Jerome when we were kids. Couldn't pull the trigger with you watching." Nicole felt a tight ache behind her ribs but stayed focused. "Who else is involved?" "Danny mentioned a hedge fund guy, Trevor Manning. Said the contract came from people with political reach. Rich folks playing games with other people's lives." Trevor Manning. The arrogant diner who'd belittled her over wine. Ghost's voice dropped lower. "Nick, these aren't street crews. These are people who smile while they plan murder. They'll kill you too if they think you're in the way." Nicole stood, her mind already racing through next steps. "You're going to give this statement to Detective Kelly?" "Every detail you just told me." Ghost nodded, a flicker of respect in his eyes. "Be careful, Nick. They're not done." Outside the room, Kelly caught Nicole's look and knew something serious had shifted. "What did he tell you?" "Enough," Nicole said quietly. "And we need to move fast." Nicole left the station with a steady stride, phone in hand, mind already building a plan. The night air carried the sharp smell of rain and city smoke. She dialed Harrison as she reached her car. He answered on the first ring. "What did he say?" "We need to talk in person," she replied. "Pack a bag. You're not safe at home." When she reached Harrison's Beacon Hill house, Catherine Walsh met her at the door with a hard look. Nicole explained everything in crisp detail: the assassination contract, Danny's role, Trevor Manning's connection. Catherine listened without a single interruption, only the tightening of her jaw giving away her thoughts. "This isn't just a hit," Catherine said when Nicole finished. "It's a corporate play." Nicole nodded. "They're after more than Harrison's life. They want control of his company, and the government contracts that come with it." Harrison paced the living room, his face pale but focused. "If they have inside access, they could hit me anywhere. office, home, even public events. We need a secure location, Nicole said. And a way to find out who inside your circle is feeding them information. Catherine led them to a quiet suburban safe house she'd used before. It was unremarkable, 2 stories, neutral siding, curtains drawn, but Nicole checked every door and window herself before letting Harrison inside. "Who has direct access to your schedule and security codes?" she asked once they settled in the dimly lit living room. "Catherine, obviously," Harrison said. "My housekeeper Maria. My driver Robert. My assistant Jennifer. Accountant, lawyer, chef, gardener. That's it." Nicole considered each name, eyes narrowing. "Your assistant is the easiest channel. She knows your calendar and habits. If she's compromised, she could feed them everything without suspicion." Harrison looked conflicted. "Jennifer's been with me 3 years. I trust her." "I understand," Nicole said calmly. "But trust doesn't stop betrayal. We need to test her." Catherine crossed her arms. "How?" Nicole thought for a moment. "We feed her false information. Harrison, you call and say you'll be at your office late tonight working on a deal. Give her a specific time and place, tell her to keep it quiet. If the conspirators show up, we'll know she's the leak." Harrison hesitated. "And if she's innocent?" "Then nothing happens, and we clear her name," Catherine said. "But if she's not?" He finally nodded. "All right. Let's do it." He stepped aside and called Jennifer, putting the phone on speaker so they could all hear. His voice stayed calm as he gave the details: a late-night session at the office, top-secret Morrison acquisition files, a request for complete discretion. Jennifer agreed quickly, sounding concerned but professional. When the call ended, silence settled over the room. Nicole checked her watch. "Now we wait," she said. "If they're watching her, we'll know soon enough." Her phone buzzed a few minutes later. An unknown number. The text was simple, chilling: "Stop protecting him or join him in death. Final warning." Nicole showed the message to Harrison and Catherine. The words glowed cold against the dim safehouse light. "They already know," Harrison said, voice low. "Or they think they do," Nicole replied. "It doesn't matter, we stay the course." She handed the phone to Catherine. "Run a trace if you can. I'll sweep the perimeter." While Catherine worked on her laptop, Nicole stepped outside. The night smelled of wet leaves and distant exhaust. She circled the property with practiced ease, noting every shadow, every potential approach. Nothing moved but the quiet sway of trees. Back inside, Catherine looked up from her screen. Encrypted signal. Bounced through at least 4 international servers. Whoever sent this knows their craft. Nicole leaned against the wall, mind racing. They bit fast. Too fast. Jennifer must have called someone the moment we hung up. Harrison rubbed his temples. "I can't believe she'd." "Belief doesn't matter," Nicole said gently. "Facts do. We need proof." Catherine closed the laptop with a decisive click. "Then we give them a chance to show themselves. I'll alert a trusted team to cover the office building discreetly." Nicole nodded. "No uniforms. Just eyes." 2 hours later, the 3 of them sat in an unmarked SUV across from Blake Industries' downtown office. The glass tower gleamed under streetlights, mostly dark at this late hour. "Motion sensor trip, east stairwell," Catherine murmured into her earpiece. "Camera feed coming up." On the tiny screen, a figure in a dark hoodie moved with practiced speed through the stairwell. "That's not Jennifer," Harrison whispered. "No," Nicole said. but she led them here. They watched as the intruder bypassed 2 electronic locks before slipping into Harrison's top-floor office. Nicole was already moving, slipping from the vehicle like a shadow. Catherine and Harrison followed at a distance, staying low. Inside the building, Nicole climbed the stairs 2 at a time, her breathing controlled, each movement silent. She reached the office door and waited, listening. A faint click of keys inside told her someone was copying files. She eased the door open just enough to slip in. The intruder, a lean man in black with a small data drive, froze at the sight of her. "End of the line," she said quietly. He lunged for the window, but Nicole intercepted, twisting his arm until the drive clattered to the floor. Catherine and Harrison arrived seconds later, Catherine training a compact pistol on him. "Who sent you?" Nicole demanded. The man winced but said nothing. Nicole retrieved the data drive and glanced at the glowing laptop screen. A folder name leapt out: Morrison Acquisition, Confidential. "Corporate espionage," Catherine muttered. "Morrison Securities." Nicole met Harrison's eyes. "This isn't just an assassination plot. They're trying to take your company apart from the inside." Harrison's jaw tightened. "Then we finish this. Tonight." Nicole picked up the drive and secured it in her jacket. "First we find Jennifer. She's the key to the whole thing." The downtown lights were fading toward dawn when Nicole, Harrison, and Catherine returned to the safe house. Harrison poured black coffee for everyone, his hands steadier than Nicole expected. "We confront Jennifer now," he said, voice firm. "Careful," Nicole replied. "If she's working with them, she may already know the plan failed. She could panic, destroy evidence, or call her partners." Catherine tapped her phone. "I've tracked her location. She's at Harrison's office building, arrived 20 minutes ago. Alone." Nicole slipped on her jacket. "Then she's checking what went wrong. Let's move." They reached the building before sunrise. The city was quiet, only a few delivery trucks humming along the street. Nicole led the way up the east stairwell, the same route the intruder had used. At the top floor, the glow of an office lamp spilled into the hallway. Inside, Jennifer sat at Harrison's desk, typing rapidly on her phone with a second phone balanced beside her. She jumped when the door opened, eyes wide. "Mr. Blake." What's going on?" Nicole closed the door behind them. "We found your friend," she said, holding up the recovered data drive. "Care to explain how someone else knew exactly where to find these files?" Jennifer's face tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." Catherine stepped forward, voice cold. "We have video of a hired operative using your security credentials to break in. We have a trace on a call made from your phone to a private number minutes after Harrison phoned you last night. Don't lie." Jennifer's shoulders sagged, the fight leaving her eyes. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered. "Trevor said no one would get hurt. He promised." Harrison's jaw clenched. "Trevor Manning?" Jennifer nodded. "He said if I passed along your schedule and code updates, he'd make sure I was taken care of. He talked about a merger, about how Morrison Securities needed leverage. I thought it was just corporate spying, not," she swallowed hard. "Not murder." Nicole watched her carefully. "Who else is involved?" Jennifer's voice cracked. "Vanessa Cross. She's Trevor's partner in the hedge fund. They said if you were out of the way, they could force a takeover and get the government contracts. Danny from the restaurant was just a go-between." Catherine snapped photos of Jennifer's phones and forwarded them to Detective Kelly. "You're going to give a full statement," she said. "Now." Jennifer wiped at her eyes. "I'll cooperate." I swear. Just protect me. Nicole exchanged a look with Harrison. Kelly will have warrants out for Trevor and Vanessa within the hour. But they won't go quietly. Harrison exhaled, a mix of anger and relief. What about Danny? Nicole's gaze hardened. He's next. The first streaks of morning light cut through the skyline as they left the office. Nicole felt the long night settle in her muscles but kept moving. There was still one final confrontation ahead, and she intended to see it through. By late afternoon, Detective Kelly had a small task force ready. Warrants were issued for Trevor Manning, Vanessa Cross, and Danny Reeves. Nicole insisted on going along, not to fight but to ensure no one slipped through a crack. The first stop was Trevor's penthouse overlooking the harbor. Police surrounded the glass and steel building while Nicole and Kelly rode the elevator up with 2 officers. Trevor opened the door with a forced smile, a glass of scotch in hand. Evening, Detective. To what do I owe? Kelly held up the warrant. Trevor Manning, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder, corporate espionage, and attempted theft of classified data. His smirk faltered. This is a mistake. Nicole watched him try to mask his panic. You hired a crew to kill Harrison Blake, she said quietly. It's over. Trevor's eyes narrowed, but he didn't resist as officers cuffed him. You think you've won, he muttered. There's always another move. Next was Vanessa Cross. She was picked up at her hedge fund office, surrounded by monitors still streaming global market data. She said nothing, only glared at Nicole as officers led her away. Finally they headed for the restaurant where it all began. Danny Reeves was closing early, wiping down the bar when they arrived. He looked up, irritation flashing to fear as Kelly read the charges. I just passed messages, he blurted. They said it was just pressure on a deal, nothing violent. You arranged an armed robbery, Kelly said. That's violence by definition. Danny sagged against the counter as officers cuffed him, his earlier bravado gone. Hours later, back at the safe house, Nicole and Harrison sat in the quiet living room. The city outside buzzed with the evening rush, but in the small house everything felt still. It's done, Kelly reported over speakerphone. With Jennifer's testimony and the recovered data, prosecutors have more than enough. The crew Ghost recruited will serve time, but thanks to his cooperation we can cut a deal. The real architects, Trevor, Vanessa, Danny, will face federal charges. Harrison thanked her and ended the call. For a long moment he and Nicole said nothing. The tension of the past days seemed to drain from the room, leaving only a tired calm. You saved my life, he said finally. Not just that night, every step after. Nicole shook her head. You saved yourself by listening and acting. I just helped you see what was there. He smiled faintly. That's modest, but I know better. Catherine wants to retire. The position is yours if you want it. Nicole looked into the dark window, seeing her own reflection layered over the city lights. For years she had hidden her training, shrinking from the noise of the world. But maybe quiet strength didn't mean disappearing. I'll think about it, she said. Harrison nodded, understanding without pressing. Outside, the city lights flickered like distant stars. Nicole let herself breathe, the night no longer a threat but a promise of something new, an open road she was finally ready to walk.